Hello, ladies, and welcome to the show tonight. And gentlemen, if you are watching, I find that more and more gentlemen are watching the show. So welcome, welcome. We have a special guest, Mrs. Amanda Gander. Do you want to say hi?
Hello.
There she is. I see that you have some pretty art in the back of your wall, too.
I do. Well, I don't want to be, I don't know. I'm afraid to turn.
Yeah, don't turn it. Just
Yeah.
tell me. Is that one of
Sweeter Than Honey?
Yeah, Sweeter Than Honey. That's it. Sweeter Than Honey, KJV.
Yeah, I actually had my secret sister send that to me, so that was really nice. And then I painted this one, but I didn't come up with the design. I saw it on a picture, and I just kind of repainted it onto a canvas.
And you said you're not artsy. Oh, you said you're not into technology.
Not into technology, yeah.
But we got this figured out, so we're excited. Now, I know nothing of Miss Amanda's testimony. She actually just emailed me last week, and I was like, you want to come on the show? She emailed me. I saw it, and I was like, you want to come on the show? And she's like, sure. So she is here, which is good because I was looking for a guest. So we also will have a special guest in 2 weeks. Mrs. Sherry Thompson will be on. In 2 weeks, and we'll be talking about teenagers and things that go along with teenagers. I've had a lot of women asking about that, just about like the talk and, you know, raising teenagers. She came on before and did a show with us about that, Leslie and I, but we're going to have her on again. So anyways, Amanda, go ahead. And I just want to hear about your background, your testimony, and then just maybe a little bit of your struggle when you became a Christian of learning the biblical role for being a wife. So it's all yours.
Okay. I will try to keep it short. I'm long-winded. Everybody knows this. So my husband and I, neither of us were raised in Christian homes. I was raised in a broken home. My parents split up before I was even born. So I only knew what it was like to have a single mom raising me. That being said, my dad was kind of not in the picture at all when I was younger. Well, I don't want to say at all. He was in and out, so not stable. And my mom had to work 2 jobs to support us, so she wasn't around. So you can imagine what kind of trouble a child and then teenager can get into. I do have an older brother, but we got into trouble together. My mom was very much the type of woman to say, you know, you don't need a man. You can take care of yourself. You got to make your own way. Kind of instilling in me that you can't trust men. You should always have a backup plan. So, you know, make sure you can support yourself. So I was very, I grew up bitter. Like, I, you know, I don't need anyone. You know, my mom wasn't really there because she was working so much, so I didn't need her either. And then I met my husband, and I knew right away I was going to marry him, which was strange because in my mind, I was going to have kids, but I was never getting married. And it turned out that he was actually born and raised in the city my grandparents lived in, which was about an hour and a half away from where I was. And we decided that we were going to move there. And we were 25, and that was the first, because my grandparents were there, and they were married almost 75 years before they passed. But that was my first time really getting to spend a lot of time with a married couple. And my husband and I spent a lot of time with them, and both knew that was what we wanted, but we weren't sure how to go about it. So at that point in my life, my dad was more consistent. He came around, and I kind of wanted to make up for all of that lost time. So my dad was my go-to, right? And which, when you have a husband who wants to be your husband, it's not always a good thing to be running to your dad all the time. But
right.
yeah, that. And So anyway, we got married. We weren't living a good life. I was actually making more money than him. I would remind him of that a lot.
Mm.
And it's not, my husband is just very like passive.
Yeah.
Well, if that makes you happy, whatever. And so well, I want my own bank account and I make more money. And so, that wasn't a good married life. And then Joshua, my husband, ended up getting saved before I did. And he completely changed almost overnight. And, then I had, of course, my mom going, he's trying to control you. He's trying to change you. And I wasn't ready to hear anything he had to say. Won't get too far into it, but we ended up separating for a bit. I left, and that it's hard for me to talk about because I know it really hurt him, and obviously, but he never stopped praying for me, never gave up on me, and he would have my mom and even his family going, "You're never going to change her," and he said, I know I'm never going to change her. I don't want to change her. And he prayed for me, and I finally let go of all the fear, and I got saved and started reading my Bible, and really realizing that I wasn't living right, and I wanted to have what my grandparents had, but I didn't know how to do that. And I'd read in my Bible, and my first step towards submission was to get baptized. Why tarriest thou? I read that and I'm like, why am I waiting? And then after that, I started realizing the way I was dressing was, I was actually shocked to read that, the way that I was dressing could cause another man to look at me, and that would be hurtful to his wife. But I wasn't really thinking that it was hurting my husband,
Right.
how I was dressing. And so again, he just prayed for me a lot. He never told me, you need to do this. It was actually just reading the Bible and listening to the Lord and wanting to obey the Lord and finding my way through that. So I went through my closet and, started dressing more modestly, and noticing that the more I was submitting and obeying to the Lord, that I was submitting and obeying to my husband, the happier our marriage was, the more like my grandparents' marriage, our marriage looked, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, my grandmother used to pretend like she couldn't open jars just to like get my grandpa to come over and open it, and he'd like walk away strutting and my grandma would wink at me. And yeah, so little things like that, really lifting up your man, making him feel important. And I realized the more that I started letting him be a man and, stop being so controlling myself, the happier he was and the more loving he was towards me. A big step was me actually quitting my job. We had no children yet, wanted children, but I realized I felt really convicted. I was putting all of my time and focus into my work and not my home. And so I know, I mean, it's perfectly fine if you don't have children and you both want to work and stuff, but I found for me it was holding our marriage back. And I found stuff to do. I did stuff in the church, cleaning the church. I was trying to be a blessing to other ladies with children, but more so focusing on things that I could do for my husband. And so I'm not perfect now, definitely not. And there are times that he wants to do something a certain way, and maybe he can't hear what I'm saying, but I know the Lord can hear my begrudging attitude. But um I hope he's not listening, but he's usually right.
I'm sure he's listening. He's going to hold it over your head. He's going to timestamp it.
Yeah. Be like, remember when you said this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Be like, remember this?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So I kind of wanted to go through some of these. And ladies, if you have any questions or anything, be sure to leave them in the chat. And I forgot to mention too, I am going to be doing a giveaway at the end. So you have to stay to the end. And I'm going to be giving away one of the first edition Gently Led Sisters shirts. And I'm also going to be showing you sneak peek a shirt that Brother Steve Hoffman is working on for us that you can also purchase. But stay tuned to the end because we will be having another giveaway tonight. Okay, so I wanted to read real quickly Ephesians, and I have some verses listed. Ephesians 5:22 through 24, which says, "Wives, submit yourself unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything." And when I was actually looking up verses for this, there was quite a few. I had a lot of verses to go along with the points. So we will be reading some of those. And I know for those of you that are tuning in that maybe don't watch us regularly, you know, we do pattern our lives after the Word of God, after the Bible. So we will be doing a lot of Bible verses. And then too, I know Amanda wanted to touch on this, so we'll just go ahead and touch on it since someone said something. And then you had someone named Jamie that said hi.
Hello.
Hello, Jamie. But Stay True asked, they wanted to know your thoughts on parents being too involved in a married couple's relationship. I'll say something after you say something. But how did you come to the point where you did you just stop running to your dad with every little thing, you know, in your marriage? How did you go about that?
It was actually my husband coming to me and explaining to me how it made him feel. And it didn't even occur to me how it was making him feel. And I was afraid because I was without my dad my whole life. I was afraid, oh no, then I'm going to lose my dad again. And I went to him, and actually my dad and I have a great relationship now, but he scolded me. And you know, and explained to me that it was important to let my husband be the head of the household, you know. And I didn't lose my relationship with my dad.
Good.
It actually got better. And yeah, so I think it's important to understand that, you know, when you leave your house and you get married, that, you know, it's between you and your husband, not you and your husband and your dad and your mom and his dad and mom.
Exactly. My one of the things I've done my entire marriage is I do not talk badly about my husband to anyone. I do not tell stories if we have a fight. And we have a fight. We have fights. It's very rare now. When we were first married, it was more often. But you kind of learn the red button issues, the hot button issues, and you stay away from them.
Yeah. Socks.
So, yeah. Yeah. So it's rare now. But you know, we still fight. And one thing I've never done from the time I first got married was I would not call my mom up. I would not tell her about the fight. I would not tell my friends about really the, you know, knockout, drag down fights. If I said that right, whatever. I would never tell anyone about our fights because it was no one's business. My loyalty has always been to my husband. And my husband, my loyalty is number one with him. And I don't know, we've not really had this issue. We've had issues before where maybe some of the in-laws did try to overstep, but he usually took care of it. Maybe you as a wife, if you feel like your in-laws are overstepping their bounds, you can have a talk with your husband and tell him, say, listen, it makes me feel this way when your mom does this, or it makes me feel this way when your dad does this. And can you please let them know it's not acceptable? And, you know, parents have a hard time seeing you as an adult. I'm almost 40 years old. I have a child that's graduated high school now. We're having our party for him this Friday. And I still feel, when I'm with my mom, I still feel like a little kid. And I don't know if you feel that way even with your dad.
I do. I actually, when we were expecting Caleb, I had this moment where I was like, am I still going to be your little girl? Um, but yeah, you can very much still be that. But I think it's really important what you said, not talking bad about your husband,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing. And a lot of people do that.
Yeah. And I found too that, you know, even if the whole world is against your husband, and when you are married to a preacher, especially, and he is standing against the whole world, I feel like he's able to do that as long as he knows his wife is in his corner, you know?
Yeah.
And so I've always tried to be the one to encourage him. And if my family has a problem with my husband, and I've told them this, if you have a problem with my husband, then I have a problem with you, because my loyalty is to him. And even if you don't agree with him, I don't want you talking bad about him to me. You know, my loyalty lies to him. And I've told them I will cut you off, and I will. I'm sorry. I know siblings are your family too, but my loyalty has always been to my husband. Stacy McComas asked, how does your mom feel about you submitting to your husband now? My mother is very headstrong and my dad is submissive. She doesn't like my husband. My family and I don't really talk anymore. So
um,
I have a feeling, yeah, you don't have to get into too much detail, but I have a
right.
feeling that you probably don't have much of a relationship with your mom.
I don't. And really, that's a choice that she made partially, but mostly me. She just stubborn. You know, my dad actually even tried to appeal to her, said,
Mm-hmm.
you know, look at how happy she is. But when my husband and I separated for that little bit, my husband or my mom was like, divorce him, you know, and couldn't understand why I didn't want to. And I found her to be closer to me when I left. And when I went back, it was not like that. And we have had to cut people off,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I don't take that either. My husband's my husband. I'm not going to listen to you pick him apart.
Yep. And I don't think people understand this, and women especially. You know, it's foolish to think that as a spouse, you can have a problem with one of the spouses and then be close to the other one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's a package deal. So if you have a problem with me, my husband's going to have a problem with you. And if you have a problem with my husband, I'm going to have a problem with you.
Absolutely. That's obviously.
Yes. And so, you know, don't think that you can attack either one of us and the other spouse is going to be okay with it. I don't understand that mentality at all. So, and then Jessica said she also hates when some women tell stories about their husbands that would totally embarrass them. Yeah, don't embarrass them. So anyways, let's get back to the authority structure. Obviously, the authority structure is God. The husband is the head, and then the wife, and then the children. And, you know, the father is the head of the home. 1 Corinthians 11:3 says, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Okay, so there is an authority structure even within the Trinity. You know, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. And they are one, like when you're married, you are one, but there is still an authority structure there. And I found for us, you know, that doesn't mean like my husband micromanages me. I make a lot of decisions on my own, just, you know, ask any of my friends or the ladies in my church. I make a lot of decisions, but for the very, very big ones, you know, he makes that decision. So is that kind of how it goes in your home?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big misconception is that if you have a strong personality, if you are more outspoken, you have to completely change that.
Right.
And that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my husband trusts me to make decisions in the house. You know, he works really hard. He works 2 jobs. He preaches now. If I had to ask him for every little decision, he probably wouldn't get any work done. But on big decisions, yeah, we have to be united. And Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that I wanted to throw that in too, because I didn't put it in the notes, but it is foolish for men to go around strutting. And if you have any opinion, and we've both seen this on social media at all, you have men telling you that you're rebellious and just go make your husband a sandwich. Well, first of all, another man does not have a right to tell you anything.
Correct. That's right.
It says, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands. It does not say wives submit to every man in the world. So that's just foolishness. I wanted to throw that out there because that is a major pet peeve of mine. And I am very, very outspoken as well. And you've talked before about how you're outspoken. And our husbands both have to rein us in a little bit sometimes.
Yes.
But, you know, my husband is perfectly fine with me putting my opinion out there. And most of you know my policy for social media is I don't write anything that I wouldn't say in real life. Well, I'm already outspoken in real life anyways, so sometimes I can be outspoken on social media, but he's fine with that. And I've always said that it takes a very strong man and a very secure man to be married to a very outspoken woman. So
Yep. Very true.
yeah, so it's a good thing that, you know, my husband is. Someone asked, what if your husband is unable to lead the home? And we didn't really put that on there. I know we were going to talk about what if he won't lead, but what if he is unable? I do know, many of you know Sarah Mejia, and her dad was in the really bad, he had the brain aneurysm or whatever, and he was in a coma for a long time. And I know her mom had to take over. And, you know, if your husband is in some position like that, I would say just do the best you can and do it according to what you think he would have wanted while he was still coherent or around. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, I always say, you know, the Bible's our life manual. So do what the Lord would want. And when you're married to somebody, you know them. So you would know what decisions they would make,
Right.
what they would do. And again, our husbands trust us to take care of the home, right? So
yeah. Yep, exactly. So I want to throw the father is the head of the home, but also the husband is to love the wife. You know, now men don't think, yay, this is all going to be about, you know, women submit. You know, we do have our role, but the men also have the role. They are to love their wives. It's really, yes, there's someone said I spy Duncan. Yep, Duncan. I said that. You have coffee too, don't you?
Tea. I drink. I'm a teetotaler.
There you go. I'm both. Whatever I feel like. Dorothy said someone asked, what do you mean unable to leave the home? And she said involved in major sins. Put you on the spot there.
Yeah.
that is a tough one. That would get them thrown out of fellowship. Well, first of all, this is gonna be my opinion. I would say if it is some type of sin that needs to be reported, first of all, you need to do that. He needs to be held accountable for those things. And if he gets sent to prison for them, then he gets sent to prison for them. But if it's sins involving, you know, like sexual sins against someone, he needs to be reported. So I would definitely do that. I would not sit idly by while that happened. If it's other types of sins, such as, let's see, like prostitution, maybe something is that illegal? I don't know if you can get arrested for that anymore.
Yes, it's illegal.
Is it illegal?
Well, I mean, I am in Canada, so I don't know if it's different in the States, but it is illegal here, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, liquor, I don't know. If it's sins like that, you're just going to have to pray for him, first of all. You're going to have a harder time because you're going to have the responsibility of raising good children is now going to fall on you. So you might need to take some leadership roles in the home as far as raising your children in the Lord, because he is not able to, if he's involved in sins like that, then he's not going to be being a spiritual leader, obviously. So you are going to have to step up. I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts about that? That's a tough one.
It is really hard. I agree with everything that you said, but I also think it's important that depending on how old your children are, that you're not, oh, dad is this awful person,
Right.
age appropriately explain to him, dad is caught up in sin. We need to pray for him. Show your kids that you really love your husband.
Right.
You don't want to create a bitter spirit against against your husband with your children.
Right. Exactly. This is why I love having two different opinions on here, because you can say things that I don't necessarily think of. No, that's a really good point. So, and someone said the Bible tells us what to do. Go to your pastor. I would definitely seek counsel. Definitely in that situation, he's going to be able to tell you best. And then if your husband is absent, look to him for leadership. Take your kids, keep them in church, and be under a good man of God. Definitely, for sure, in that situation. So, we are to reverence our husband, and the children are to be in subjection. So those are the big ones for God's plan for the family. That is God's plan. Now, I wanted to touch on this next one, because when in the midst of June, we have a lot of stuff going on happening in the social media world, all over the world. It's pervert month. I'm going to call it that, pervert month. And they are doing the social media sites, people on social media, everyone has a platform now, and they are doing everything they can to demonize God's plan for the family. They are doing everything in their power to get rid of the natural order of things. And one of the ways that they do this is they try to, first of all, the women, they try to get them working outside of the home. They try to make it so that she's not in subjection. What are some of the things coming from a worldly home that were really, really hard for you to give up, to get the brainwashing out? What was the main thing when it came to submission to your husband?
There are a few. Money is number one. Have your own bank accounts. Have a way out. Like I said, I had a healthy fear of money from when I was small. I knew all about my mom's finances. You know, she would ask me to call my dad for child support. Say, so that was really in my head and really hard for me to let go and trust my husband to take care of us. And this is something that I chose, which again, people think it's a little much, but for me, my husband has the only bank card. He takes care of all the bills. I see nothing. I live in ignorance, and it's blissful. I have no idea what's going on, and my husband does that for me. So I don't worry. Now I've grown now. I don't worry. I trust the Lord. I know will always be taken care of. But at the beginning, that was really difficult for me, giving up control, right? Because the world teaches us that you can't really trust anyone, and you always do have to have an exit plan.
Right. That's very good. I was not raised. See, that would totally be in the back of my head, because I was raised in a Christian home. I was raised with the intention of marriage and having a godly husband. And I never have thought of, I have to have a nest egg, or, I have to have a stash just in case he leaves me or whatever. So I could see how that would be tough for you, if that's always in the back of your mind. So definitely. And I know you said you worked out of the home for a long time, and that's another way that society is just trying to tear down the family structure. They are trying to get the women out of the home so that the children are latchkey kids. They come home from school, the parents don't get home till 5 or 6, both of them, and there's no meals together anymore. And I really feel like women working outside of the home is a big detriment to the family. Do you feel that way too?
Yeah, absolutely. We look around in my family. I at Christmas time, I was talking to my cousin, and they had just had a baby. So she was 7 months old, and we were talking about sleep patterns. And she said, well, I don't know when Hannah really would sleep too, because she's got to be up at 6 in the morning because I got to drop her off at daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And it threw me back. But then I realized, not so many years ago, had we had children, I would have been doing that.
Right.
And they just don't see their kids. Perfect strangers raise their children.
Yeah, definitely. Bible literalist said Galatians 3:28, sisters are free and equal. Our identity is in Christ, not men. I would definitely agree with that. I would agree that as a husband and a wife, being in submission to him is not making you any less important. It is definitely a humbling thing as a wife. It's America. It's 2019 in America. We can get away with whatever we want. No husband can force his wife to do anything she doesn't want to do. So for a wife to be in submission to her husband, it is a humbling thing that we choose to do. It doesn't mean that we're any less. My husband trusts my advice more than anyone in the world. So it does not make you any less of a person, but it is something that the Bible still does command. So you can't get around that. Someone asked, how about just working outside of the home a few days a week? I'll give my opinion, then you can give yours. I really believe that, if it's not interfering, it's fine to have some. For me, like I was teaching piano 2 evenings a week, and my husband was home during that time most of the time. And for me, it was just a fun outlet and just a way to have something other than, homeschooling kids all day and cleaning and changing diapers and things like that. So it was a fun outlet for me. I think as long as it's not interfering with anything and your husband's fine with it, then it's perfectly fine. Every household is different. So I might be able to do something that you can't. You might be able to do something I can't. And Jessica said, what version is that? Because it's not King James. That's not what it says. Yeah, I don't know if they were paraphrasing. I think they're talking about the verse in Galatians. I think I know what they're talking about. I'll look up the King James version of it. But tell me your opinion about women working outside of the home a few days of the week.
Again, I think it depends on the household. If you have children, I think that if it would cause you to rely on a babysitter, I don't think it's a good idea. If you don't have children and your husband is okay with it, I think that's a big thing. And like you said, it doesn't interfere with what you have going at home, then it's fine. Personally, based on my personality and how I put everything into work, it just wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be a good thing. And my husband and I know that. And so I don't, and I have no plans to.
Yeah. That's good. And that works for you. So like I said, every house is different.
Right.
And Galatians 3:28 says, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. So yeah, I mean, I understood. I think I understood what they were trying to say, and I agree, especially when it comes to salvation. We are all one. Salvation is the same across the board, and that's what it's talking about. There is no race that's higher than another race. We all come to salvation the same way. It's a free gift through Jesus Christ by faith alone, no works added. And it doesn't matter if you're a Jew, it doesn't matter if you're Greek, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, we all get saved the same way. So that's how I take that. But okay, so yeah, this is pervert month. So we got to touch on this. Take back the rainbow, as Stephen Baughman said.
That's right.
Homosexuality is running rampant, and that is another way that they are trying to destroy the home. And lest you think that I am making things up, look up statistics of abuse that happens in home. There's many, there are many straight couples that are abusive, but their abuse runs rampant in the homosexual world as well. They're not going to be highlighting it as much because it is a touchy subject and they don't want that getting out. but it is there. So what are some ways that you've seen, even in Canada? You're in Canada.
Yeah.
So is it running as rampant there as it is in America, or more so?
Oh yeah, I would almost say more so.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not going to say who, but I have a family member that is openly a homo, and when I was a teenager, it was great because I would hang out with them, and all their adult, and we're talking 40s, when I was 15, 16, would feed me alcohol and
Mm.
hang out with me. I praise God that, nothing happened, but it very well could have. What are you what are you doing feeding alcohol to a minor, And I was around that lifestyle, and I saw they target children. No one
Yeah.
can tell me differently. They target children. It's in the libraries,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How sad is it that I can't take my child to the library because it might be tranny reading week,
Exactly.
Why are they reading to children too? Why?
Yeah, they are targeting children, and I know I've seen displays all across America of, because it's the whole month is dedicated to it, which is ridiculous. And it is in children's sections where they're targeting the children because they recruit.
Yes, absolutely.
They recruit, and that's why it's in TV shows, and that's why it's in cartoons that children are going to be watching, because they want to get it in the child's mind from very early on that it's okay, that it's acceptable, that this is normal. And they hate it when people quote scripture, at them and show them that it is not normal, it is not right, it is not God's plan for the family. So another way that the world tries to tear down the family is absent dads and single moms, or dads that won't take charge. What would you suggest to a lady that has a husband that he's kind of, he's not very spiritual, and he just really doesn't want to take the reins, and he doesn't really want to take charge, but she wants, her family to be on fire for the Lord and serving him, and he's just kind of like, well, I'd rather stay home and watch the football game. What would be your suggestion for a woman in that situation?
Be sweet. First of all, pray.
Yeah.
But I mean, men love feeling wanted. They love being the man, right? So I would say, give him opportunities to be the man. I've seen sometimes where women are more spiritual. They're just maybe a little bit further in their walk, and they can become domineering through
Yeah.
that. And I think it's important not to do that. Show them respect. Um, like I said, pray. I know prayer works. I've seen it. I've lived it. But I think just encouraging your husband and telling him you want him to be the man, right? You want him to take charge and kind of feed his ego a little bit.
Right. And I think I've seen a problem. Some ladies that are maybe more spiritual than their husband, they have a deeper walk with God. They're reading their Bible more, and they see that he is lacking. I feel like a lot of them browbeat him and they nag him, and
Yeah.
he gets so sick of it, he just really backs off.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they're doing their home a disservice when they do that. So, I am one of the lucky ones that has a husband that is more spiritual than me, has more time than me to read his Bible sometimes when he's here studying. Not to say that we're both not very, very busy people, but he is more spiritually grounded, and he knows the Bible better than I do. And I know I'm blessed in that area, because anymore I know husbands are getting to where they're not very spiritual. But I would say just be consistent and do what you can do. If he's okay with you going to church every week, go to church every week. If he's okay with you having the kids there every week, take him. If he stays home and he misses because of the Super Bowl, don't nag him the whole day about it. Don't constantly beat him over the head about it. That's going to make him hate going. That's going to make him think you're a nag. just don't be a nag about it. That's the number one thing I think most. Do you think that's the number one pitfall most women fall into?
Yes. Yeah. I was one of them. So absolutely. It kind of makes them not want to be a part of anything that you have going on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I kind of said be sweet, right?
Yes.
You
You can
know,
replies with honey.
right. Yeah.
Bitterness and vinegar. Definitely.
And not, I can't believe you want to stay home and watch football while I'm going to church, you know? Maybe I would really love to be able to sit beside you during service and hold your hand. Do you think you can come with us next week? Something like that, you know?
Right. Yes. I'm going to cover this really quick. This doesn't really have to do with our topic so much, but it is a good question since it is pervert month. Stacy asked, okay, I have been battling cardinal Christians most of the day for my Facebook posts about homos. Do you believe that an ex-homosexual can be saved if they truly repent? I'm unsure on that topic. You had to know we were going to get this one. So Romans 1. Okay, and this is obviously you'll find a lot of people in our crowd turning to Romans 1 because it talks about, I need to find Romans 1, King James Version. It talks about the, what we call reprobates, okay? And reprobate is someone that God gives over to a reprobate mind. And most people think that we just think this instantly happens. Like, okay, a man has a homosexual encounter with another man and boom, he's a reprobate. But if you read the Bible, it talks about how it's a process. Mm-hmm. It's a person that has rejected God over and over and over and over and over and over again. So finally they've lost their chance. And I heard this preaching the whole time I was growing up. My husband talks about it. It says in verse 24 of Romans 1, wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lusts of their own hearts to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie and worshiped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature, and likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one towards another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of the error which was meet. So most of the time, these people that are homos, and these are people that we would define as burning in their lust towards one another. I'm not talking about, there are a lot of teenagers that are confused, especially because it's being crammed down their throat so much. So I'm not talking about a confused teenager, a confused young man. I'm talking about someone that has done repeated acts and is burning in their lust towards another man. They have to give it over to a reprobate mind. I've never seen one that has repented and gotten saved, because when God gives them over, it's done. Their chance is over. Do you have any other way to explain that a little bit better than I did? You read Romans 1. It's so clear. But
yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And like I said, with my experience, I've witnessed people change in that aspect, experimenting and then ending up hating God and being completely different. So, and when they're at that point, do I think they can get saved? No.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And then someone asked, what about birthday parties where homos are and sympathizers are dealing with this soon? Should we be in the world but not part of the world? If you also look it up, statistics are most homosexuals have been abused in their past and they go on to abuse. So I would never have my children around them. Even if it was a family member, I would not. How about you?
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. No, I would not ever risk my children being around them. So, and plus I don't want my children to get comfortable with the fact of being around them. It's supposed to be weird to them. Yeah. It's supposed to be abnormal. So
that's right. You don't want them to start liking that family member and starting to, and
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So moving on to the topic at hand. What do you do if you know your husband's going to make a decision that's going to be a bad one? all logic tells you he's going to make a bad decision. Do you, even if it's going to cost you money, even if it's going to cost you time, what do you do? You tell me what you do. I'll tell you what I do after you're done.
First and foremost, pray.
Yeah.
So prayer is a big one. And I think there's a way to appeal to your husband without telling him what to do. Maybe, okay, for example, if it's a financial situation, that it's not good and you have evidence or reasons to back it up. Just ask him to hear you out and look it over and tell him that you trust his decision, but you found something, maybe he should take a look at it. But I do think it's important to obey your husband's final decision.
Yeah.
And trust the Lord.
Yeah. I would, for me personally, this is kind of how I handle it. Unlike you, I do our budget. So I handle all the bills. That's just what works for our family.
Right.
Like I said, you do what works for you. So I do our bills. So I know the budget. And let's say my husband wants to get something that's going to add a monthly payment. I just tell him, well, okay, this is where our budget is, and you go ahead and do it, but you'll have to figure out how it gets paid, because obviously I'm not working, I'm not working at all. I'm with the kids at home. So that just kind of works for us. And then, he figures it out. So I would say, let your husband make the decision, and then he can, deal with the consequences of that decision. I've told people that before. I've had people come to me and be like, my husband just made a big paycheck, but he wants to buy this motorcycle, and then we're not going to have any money left, and we're going to get kicked out of our house and blah, blah, blah. And I've told him, well, maybe he needs to face the consequences of getting you kicked out of your house. I don't know. Tough love. That's just how I see it. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts?
No, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
It's different in my family. Obviously, I know what my weekly budget is, and that's all I have to worry about. I get that set amount of money, and that's what I take care of, the groceries and household things with. Yeah.
See, and it kind of goes along with our notes too, but that's another area where, that takes a lot of the responsibility and the burden off of you, because you're not worried about it.
Absolutely. I always have a sweet life.
Right. And there's a bunch of chat going on in the conversation, still talking about cutting family members off if they are sodomites. And I know it is so hard to cut family members off, but you have to realize that your first priority is your husband and your kids. And if you are going to be around family members that are living that type of lifestyle, you do not want your children around that. And I know it seems harsh, but that's just the decision we have made as a family. And that's another way I'm submissive to my husband, is that he has said, if any family members are sodomites, we will not be at that family function. So that's just our guidelines, and you have to come up with a guideline in your own home. But the Bible says that people like that are filled with all unrighteousness. People that are filled with all unrighteousness are going to do horrible things, and you need to protect your children. So that's my 2 cents. Maybe we can move on from that subject now, though.
Yeah. Well, it is. I'll just add this. It is. Cutting off family members is hard, but the closer, you just got to pray about it and trust the Lord. The Lord will lift that burden from your heart. I went from crying about situations that hurt me so bad to just, it doesn't affect me like that anymore. You just got to trust, right?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so maybe we can answer this. I know I'm putting you on the spot. I meant to tell you. I tell everyone when they come on, you're going to be put on the spot because people ask questions in the chat. So
okay.
Light on your feet. Someone asked, what about when you don't agree with your husband's discipline? You can answer this one first.
Discipline for the children?
Yes.
I think, first of all, I think it's not good to disagree with your husband in front of your child. If you're seeing something, you don't agree with it, If you call out your husband, especially in front of your children, it's not going to be good for your husband, you, or your child. I think if you think it was a little bit harsh, it's something that you can talk to between the two of you. Tell him how you feel about it, and maybe he can explain why. But that's a hard one, right? I guess that's what I would do.
Yeah, I agree totally with what you said. I would definitely not undermine him in front of the kids. If you have a problem with it, definitely talk about it to him in private. But the kids need to see you united on things. And someone asked a question about Christian domestic discipline. I'm not going to touch on that. That's just a little odd. Yes, I've heard of it. I read an article about it one time. That's odd because you're both adults. So yeah, I don't really see why a husband needs to spank his wife. What?
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's weird. I read a news article about it one time. It's a little strange. I guess to each his own, but I don't know. All right, so let's go on to the next question. How do you go about your spouse policing other Christian lives while defending what they do by bringing up verses about rebuking with all long suffering? I don't really understand the question. How do you go about your spouse? Okay, so your spouse is policing others' Christian lives while defending what they do by bringing up verses about rebuking with all long suffering. Can you reword that? I don't understand that. Do you understand that question?
I think so. I think I'm getting it right anyway. What do you do if your husband is calling out other Christians, basically?
Okay.
And then when you say something, they defend it with that verse.
Okay. Go ahead. What do you do?
Again, I don't think it's good to argue or call out your husband in front of anyone, including your children. Maybe that's something you can talk to your husband about. Maybe he doesn't know what it looks like, and maybe you can give him a different perspective and say, you know, I know that you love the Lord, and I know you love your brothers and sisters in Christ and want them to obey the Lord as well, but it comes off as arrogant, you know. I know you don't mean that, but just privately speaking to him, I guess, is all you could really do.
Yeah, I wouldn't, if he's doing it in public too. This is another thing, you know, don't get after your husband in front of people. Don't be like, what is wrong with you? Wow, what are you doing? Why are you know, that's going to make him look like a little ant to everyone else, and that's not reverencing him. That's not bringing him respect. So yeah, Pastor DeLello's in the chat. Someone is like, is this Tim guy trying to be funny or is he serious? Oh, Pastor DeLello's
I think he's hilarious.
He's starting to feel like a fox in the hen house, he said. Well, I know Brother Steve Boffman always tunes in, so he's here too. So, and then Chloe said, I've heard ladies say whenever they feel like they need to correct their husband's bad behavior, instead of telling them bluntly, they find a sermon about it, send it to their husband, and never bring it back up. That's a way of doing it, I guess. Sending your husband a sermon. I have sent my husband sermons before that I really thought were good, not necessarily about, I don't know, if there is one on the home or the family, I'll send it to him. You know, I've done that before with Pastor Jimenez's. I sent him one that he did about marriage. I just thought it was really good. So I don't think there's anything pushy or wrong about that. So, and then let's see. Joy asked, do you think it's wrong to use the words controlling or jealous when talking to your husband about his behavior? Once again, I think it needs to be just done in a good way. A lot of ladies, they constantly are bringing up problems to their husband all the time. Just there's something wrong with their husband, day in, day out, all the time. And then that becomes nagging. So your husband is a lot less likely to talk to you or to put up with it if he feels like it's nagging. But if it's like every once in a while and you genuinely have a problem that needs to be worked on, you know, approach him in a good way, in a loving way. And I think he's going to be more prone to listen. What do you think, Amanda?
I couldn't agree more. Right? If you're, like you said, if you're always nagging, if it's always something, then he's eventually going to tune you out.
Yeah.
And so the important things will be overlooked. So I know that I can go to my husband, and if I have a problem, speak to him, and he'll hear me, right? But I used to be this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. And now you're never listening to me. But, I wouldn't have wanted to listen to me either.
Yeah, exactly. To put it bluntly. Yeah, Jen said, talk to him the way you would want him to talk to you. Exactly. And I feel like so many married people, I read this somewhere where, why is it that you treat the ones closest to you the worst? Why is it that you feel like you can, talk to them whatever way you want? But then, people at church are just so nice and so charming too. I know we get used to each other and things, but you've really got to be careful with your words and your tone and, how you talk to your spouse. Definitely. I think that's very important to talk to him in a nice way. Don't talk to him all snarky and then be upset when he talks snarky back to you.
Yeah.
So, and then Jenny, I don't know if that's how you say it, said, usually a nagging wife really feels inadequate herself and is just taking her anger out on her husband. That's true. She might be discontent. And, I found too, if you look at your husband as your only mean of happiness, then you're not going to be very happy. Your identity can't be only in your husband. I do a lot of things without my husband. I go places without him. I have my own life. I mean, he's been traveling a lot. He's off preaching sometimes for 3 or 4 days. And so I have to really keep myself busy. What are some ways, I know you said your husband is super busy. So what are some ways that you do things to where, you're not just totally pining away for him all the time?
We do. We're a little bit corny, so we do, like, we text throughout the day. We talk all the time. But I am a serial crafter. I love crafting, so I do things like that. I have friends, obviously, so yeah, I know. Now I'm thinking I'm really boring, but sometimes I just like alone time and not having to be with him every second of the day either.
Don't make your husband have to babysit you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I've seen a lot of women like that. It's like they can't do anything. He has to constantly worry about her emotions and, be a strong, independent woman that's submissive to her husband. You'll be the whole package if you're that, in my opinion. Don't be a woman that your husband has to babysit all the time. Be able to make decisions on your own, be able to think on your feet, but make the decisions that I don't know. And I feel like the longer you're married, how long have you guys been married?
9 years this month. So
okay, so half of what we've been married. We've been married 18. And I feel like the longer you're married, the more you just know what your husband would want. I'm able to assess the situation, and I'll tell the kids, Dad's going to say this when he hears about it. Dad's going to want us to do that. And it's always exactly what I said. Do you find that more and more?
Yeah.
Definitely.
We often send each other the exact same texts.
Yeah. Yep. At the same time.
Yeah.
That's funny. And like Pastor DeLillo said, Michael scorned David for dancing in the streets. And I really think that was the final straw. David is just like, okay, woman, I'm done with you. Because, he had the respect and he had the admiration of everyone but his wife. And I think that was just like an arrow to his heart because he put her away and he never even knew her again for the rest of his life, for the rest of his married life. So she really hurt him by being scornful. And, ladies, you hold a lot of power in your hands. you have more power than you realize when it comes to your husband. And when you are scornful of him, you're damaging your home in more ways than will ever be known. So just remember that.
Mhm.
But this is obviously, to me, this is very easy, no-brainer one. What do you do if your husband wants you to sin?
You don't sin.
Yeah.
You
Short and
don't
sweet.
do it. Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, the Bible is the final authority. God is the final authority, even over your husband. The Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill." If your husband tells you to go kill someone, obviously. And I'm not even talking about, what about some of the smaller things like embezzling money, or I don't even know what's coming to my mind. Maybe even involved in sexual sins,
Mhm.
things like that. I'm trying to think of some of the littler ones that you would call some of the littler ones, but just don't do it. Your main responsibility is to obey the word of God. And even though you are supposed to be submissive, God's word is God is the final authority.
Mhm.
So what if it seems like it's not working when you're submissive? Do you have any suggestions? What if it just seems like it doesn't matter if I'm submissive, our marriage still stinks?
Um, Stick it out. I mean, that's all I can really say. Marriage, like I said, when my husband and I were able to spend time around my grandparents, and even when I did leave for a period of time, I knew we were never getting divorced. That's something that we um, knew for sure, and we weren't even saved at that point. I think a lot of people get into marriage assuming, oh, it's okay, I could just get a divorce, but it is forever.
Yeah,
And just, you know, stick with it. I know it sounds uh cliched, but pray about it, pray without ceasing. um and I think having a strong prayer life really matters.
definitely.
So
And then, yeah, I think just having in your head that, I'm in this for the long haul,
yeah.
and where your husband doesn't have to constantly feel like, it would be a horrible marriage if either one of you felt like you were only doing stuff because you were afraid the other person was going to leave you. That would be a horrible marriage. So if you just have the mindset that you are going to be in this for the long haul, and the divorce word, we call it the D word. The D word is never spoken
Mhm.
in your home. It's never even an option. So you have to work through your problems. You have to. And I know it's tough when you're married to someone who doesn't have the same mindset and they do walk away. So if that is you, I'm very sorry. Try to work on rebuilding that relationship in any way you
Mhm.
can. Try to get back together with him if he has walked away from you, because I know there are husbands that do walk away. If the marriage is unrepairable, then just focus all your time and attention on raising good, godly kids, and that would be my advice for that. April said, in most marriages, the man might not be saved, but as long as it doesn't affect him and you aren't browbeating them to death about church, they won't take church from you. Yes, exactly. And I've noticed that too. I've known of situations where the spouse was unsaved, but he was fine with his wife going to church and stuff. So as long as you're not, browbeating him to death about it and he's fine with it, then definitely go. So what if you fail at being submissive? And this is silly because we all fail. I fail every week. I'm not perfectly submissive 100% of the time. I do really well until I don't.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you fail?
uh Pick back up and keep on going. Like you, I fail every week, probably every a couple times a week even.
Yeah. Mhm.
And at the beginning it was all the time. um but I think, the more that you grow in the Lord, the more that you focus on being a godly wife, the more it becomes easy and just natural. I don't know who that person I was is like, I don't know her. I remember, but it's not natural to me. But my personality is the same. I wanted to quickly bring up, people think you need to be this quiet,
Mm-hmm.
Submissive woman. And when I first got saved, I thought I have to be like that. And how do I be like that? And I was almost jealous of women that were like that. But if you read Proverbs 31, you realize how strong a Proverbs 31 woman is, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, and for a husband to trust you to run the household, which is not an easy job, it's okay to be strong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Plus, I feel like women that are in our position, especially where, you and your family are, you're standing against the tide of the world. You have to be a strong woman. You have to be fierce, and you have to have thick skin. You really do. And you have to be willing to be strong-willed and really stand in what you believe is to be true. Because I've often told my sisters, I don't care if the whole world was doing it this way. If the Bible tells me a certain way to do it, I'm going to do it that way. So, you really have to be very, very strong in what you believe. So, but yeah, I agree. I'm often jealous of meek, quiet women too. I'm like, oh man, why can't I be like that? But you know what? God didn't make all of us the same way. He made all of us different for a reason.
Right.
And different women for different men. My husband needed someone like me along his side in the ministry. I don't think he could have, he never wanted to marry the quiet, meek one. So he got what he asked for. That's funny. Okay. Let's see. I'm missing some of the comments. Someone asked something about being a sober driver for someone, drop off or pick off. I don't know. I agree with what all the people in the chat are saying. Get Uber, all that. So let's talk about the benefits of being submissive real quick. I want to wrap it up in the next 10 minutes. So obviously you're going to have a happier husband. What husband doesn't like having a woman fulfilling her God-given role? Did you notice that your husband became happier once you chose to start practicing submission?
Absolutely. So much happier. And I thought that he wasn't somebody to make decisions because he was so passive. So, the question of like, what if your husband won't take a leadership role? Well, I would have thought that way, but the more I became submissive, the more I realized that he is a fantastic leader, a strong leader. I'm very blessed, and I didn't think it because I was so domineering. I wasn't allowing him to be a leader.
Right. And I feel like most men just want a happy home.
Yeah.
So it's like they think, well, my wife's so domineering. If I just give her away, the house will be happy. But then she's not really happy because she knows deep down that's not the way to do it. And women are happier when they're doing their God-given role. And I know so many people disagree with that, but that's because of the brainwashing of the world.
Yeah.
It really is. Because
Yeah.
women they want to have a knight in shining armor that they can look up to and that can take the lead. And at least
Feel safe.
I do. Yeah.
It's so, I know. I just have to say, I had that. I went to university. I got a degree in psychology. I had it when my husband and I first met. I had my own apartment. I was paying all my bills. I was miserable. I thought I blamed everything else for being miserable. Now that, I'm a wife and a mom, I never thought I could be this happy. I thought I was just depressed because it ran in my family. I was depressed because I wasn't living the way I was supposed to, the way that the Lord intended it to be. So,
Right. Exactly. Good thoughts. Jen said, I used to think my husband was passive, but really he is just delegating things to me that he thinks I can handle and make the decision on. Absolutely. My husband is more laid back than I am, for sure. But when it comes to the home and the finances and our children, he really he leaves a lot of it to me. And I think most husbands do trust us, like you said earlier. And I know my husband, the Bible talks about the heart of her husband does safely trust in her. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing when your husband, can trust you to make decisions and doesn't micromanage everything that you do. So, obviously different personalities. Some men are going to want to micromanage you more than others, but my husband has never been that way. So, let's see. But you're going to have happier kids because your kids are going to see that you are choosing to submit to your husband, and in the long run they're going to choose too. What makes you think if you are constantly talking down your husband and constantly being a nag that they're not going to do the same? Do you think that it produces happier kids?
Absolutely not. And I mean, if you have daughters, you're teaching them to be a godly, submissive wife. And
Right.
if you have a little boy, you're teaching him what to look for in a wife.
Yeah. You think it produces happier kids? Yeah. When I said, do you think it produces happier kids? You said, absolutely not. I just want to clear that up. She thinks it does produce happier kids.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
You're like, absolutely not. It does not. Oh, yes.
It absolutely does.
Yes.
And you're happier. Dad's happier. Mom's happier. Kids are happier.
Yeah, all the way around. And I think this is a big one too. You have less burdens, and you don't need to be doing the role of the husband and the wife. God already, back in Genesis, when the whole fall of man happened, God gave each of us our things that we're supposed to bear. You don't want to be bearing your husband's burden as well. So my feeling is, you know what? Take over. Take some of the responsibility off me. What do you think?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like I said, I'm always sitting pretty. We could be struggling financially. I would never know. I love having a husband to take care of things, and I makes me feel safe.
Right. Exactly. Nice. Takes a lot of the burdens off of you. And then also, I do believe it will enable the man to finally step into his God-given role. Most men want to be leaders. I know they're not being taught this in the world nowadays. Was it hard? You said your husband was more passive. Was it hard for him to really step up and take the leadership?
If it was, he never showed it. I could see, more confidence and just a happier man. So it just he just fell into it. It was pretty much I was holding him back because he's just so relaxed and passive. Whatever makes you happy.
Right. But I think most men just want to have happy wives.
Right.
So, obviously God will be pleased with you. There are many, many verses. Do a study on it. Look up all the passages that talk about wives or being a wife and just see what God says about it. And then try to emulate that in your own life. And you're going to see that, God will be happy with you. He'll be blessed with you. But your daughters will learn from you. You don't have daughters yet, hopefully in the future, right?
Yeah, I want a house full of children, so I'm praying.
Yeah.
I always say, we can have a set of triplets, 2 set of twins. We got this.
You go. You're very, very brave. But then your husband will rise up and call you blessed as well. So, and I think that's a very important one. Do you have anything else that you really, looking at your outline that you came up with, do you have anything else that you wanted to throw in there?
Something, well, I guess I already said it, people look at meekness as being weak, right? And something my husband said yesterday is, Moses was referred to as meek, right? Yeah. And so I don't think he was weak.
No, he was a very, very strong man.
Right.
He was not weak. Yeah. Wasn't he the meekest man on earth? Isn't that what he's credited with?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think he was. Unless it just said he was a meek man. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. Jen said, a lot of times I think it is us letting go of the reins and allowing him to fulfill his role and knowing it's not going to look the same for every family. Men are different. Some are more commanding while others are more relaxed. And that is exactly what I was talking about. Some men like to be the one, they want to be your protector. So they're going to go overboard. They're going to be checking up on you more, make sure you call me when you get there, staying up, worrying if you made it. Now, my husband could like go to bed while I'm driving 5 hours away and just be sleeping out like a light.
Yep.
He could be doing that. He's not worried about it. He knows if there's truly an emergency, I'll get a hold of him somehow. So that's how he is. That's his personality. And it's fine. I like it that way. It works for our marriage. You are married to your man. You're going to know his little nuances and his little things that he likes to do. So just work with it, grow to know him, grow to know what he likes. Try not to push those hot button topics. And, I think as you go through time, I don't know. I feel like marriage gets easier. I don't know.
Yep.
Do you feel like marriage gets easier?
Yep. I really do. And I don't know. I again, corny, but you fall in love deeper, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Mm-hmm.
It definitely gets easier though.
Oh, yeah. I feel like the first 10 years for us were the toughest. And maybe it's because we had lots of little kids that always puts a strain on marriage. And as the kids have gotten older, I feel like it's getting a lot easier because we do get more breaks together. Before it would be like I would have to pick up food at a restaurant if we wanted to date out. And then we'd have to like banish the kids to another room so we could have like a little date. I remember I needed a date with him so badly, but we only had like one babysitter at the time. It was when we moved to this church. It was a teenage girl that would watch our kids that we trusted. And she wasn't available or something. So out of desperation, I ordered our favorite food from a restaurant in town. And then I like banished the kids. I don't know if I like threw Twizzlers at them or something, banished them to another room to like watch a movie. And we sat and ate our food at the kitchen table. There's like dirty dishes everywhere. And I'm just like, whatever. I just needed a little bit of time to talk to him. So
I can relate. We have a similar story. Our first date after Caleb was born was, I think he was maybe 5 months asleep in his crib, watching his baby monitor, eating a bag of chips quietly in the kitchen.
Yep. And
But
you
it
do
was
it
a good memory. Yeah.
Yeah, you do it to survive. And it's so funny because we've had so many dates, but I still remember that one. I still remember that. It just sticks out in my head. But, we would do like movie dates and just make popcorn and watch a movie while the kids were in bed. You do what you have to survive. But definitely put the relationship of that with your husband over your children. When our kids were small, we made sure they were in bed like by 7:38, and then we had a couple hours just us. And we really needed that to keep the home life moving smoothly and everything. So I want you to think of a question about something that we talked about, something that you specifically talked about to ask the ladies. Okay. Think of a question. I'm going to show them the shirts and then I'm going to ask them, and whoever puts the answer first will have this shirt mailed to them. I think there's mainly black ones left of this. These are the first edition Gently Led Sisters. And Leslie sent me a big box, so I need to get rid of them. So I'm pretty much going to be doing a giveaway every week until these are gone. Okay. So we just have one of the plain prints on Gently Led Sisters. And I have like size small all the way up to like 3X. So we got you covered. And then there's the back with the verse. I know it's probably backwards, but okay. So there's this shirt. I think I have smalls. This is a large. So we're going to be doing a giveaway for that. But I wanted to show you the one. Brother Steve, if you're on, I meant to talk to you about this. Okay. So here is, I'm very excited about this. Lovely purple again. But here is the new Gently Led Sisters t-shirt that Brother Steve Boffman is designing. But I noticed on the shirt, I didn't know if this was the logo that you used or if this was something when they printed it. There's like a little bleeding right there and right here. So this is like a rough draft. And I'm going to ask him about it. And if that's not supposed to be there, I'm going to give him a different logo to use that we can cut that out of. See that? But anyway, still, I'm going to wear it because I love it. So it has the Gently Led Sisters. And then it's got the verse, our verse that we like. Isaiah 40:11. He shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather the lambs with his arm and carry them in his bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with young. Isaiah 40:11. I love how big it is because, okay, Brother Steve said that's not supposed to be there. So I'm wondering if maybe it just bled. You think that bled? because I think maybe like this bled on it, but I'm going to wear it anyways because I love it. See? And look at how large it is. You know, I like how big it is. It's beautiful colors. It has the logo. And then it has the little phrase, just a mom encouraging other moms on the bottom. So I love it. And I believe he's going to have them up in his shop. So you can go buy one of those. Yes, I know the shirt is super cute. So keep them in business. Go buy one of those. I know all my girls are jealous. They're like, I want one. And then Brother Steve said, I don't know, but I am not happy about that. And you are a perfectionist. So I knew that you probably wouldn't. And I'm sorry, I meant to text you about it earlier. But at least they get the main gist, right? And I wanted to still show it because. So yeah, the colors and the script are gorgeous. And he did that script, which is nice. They are very comfy. They're very, very soft. I love whatever material it is. It's just super, super soft. Someone said, I checked the shop, but see it. Is it there now? So they're wondering if it is there now, Brother Stephen. We'll ask him. But yes, it's beautiful. Okay. Do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you see the chat?
I can. Yes.
Okay. So you can call off the name when someone answers it. No, he said they're not there yet, but stay tuned. We'll get them there. Okay. All right. So what is your question? She's going to ask a question, and the first one to write down the answer gets the shirt this week. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. Who did I mention that the Bible refers to as meek?
There we go. Who was meek?
Drum roll.
Drum roll. Little bit of a lag, so we got to wait. The Jews? No.
Joy.
Yep, Joy got it. Moses. You got to be quick with the typing. Now they're like all coming through.
Yeah.
They're all coming through. Yep, Joy got it. Okay, so Joy, this is what I want you to do. I want you to email me at gentlyledsisters.com. Email me your address, and then I will get it sent out to you. Oh, I should have mentioned too, you need to be in the U.S. or at least have a U.S. address. I believe the Nivens have an address that I can send stuff to. But I have a U.S. address that I can send this to. So go ahead and email me at gentlyledsisters, not.com, gentlyledsisters@gmail.com. is our address. So just email me your address and I will get that sent out this week. So congratulations to you. Thank you, Amanda, for coming on. Any final thoughts?
No, thank you for having me. It was fun. I'm always a watcher, so.
Yep, she's always in the chat most nights. And we had almost 90 watching us tonight, so no pressure.
I'm glad I heard that after and not before. I was getting sweaty.
We had a lot watching us live. So next week, give me your ideas for topics next week. You'll have to deal with just me. I love having two people because we have different opinions. We can bounce off of each other. So just go ahead and give me a topic suggestion, and we will see what we can come up with. So I think that is it. And tune in every week from here on out because we're going to be doing giveaways until the shirts are gone. So thank you, Amanda. And go ahead and say bye to everyone. Bye.
Bye.